Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the GSL Super Tournament. The superest tournament there has ever been. The round of 64, and even though it is the early rounds of this tournament, we have seen already some spectacular games both yesterday and already today. I am super stoked about our next series that we have coming up here. We have 3 more series, so do not go away. It's not time to sleep yet.
Did you say series?
Yes.
That's right. That's what we're going to call it now on?
No, you're right. Series is not technically a word, but...
Not technically.
That's all right. That's all right. This tournament is so super that we can make up words.
Exactly.
Anyway, it's not time to go to sleep yet.
It's definitely
still
not,
have to stay
because...
up. Those of you watching on the West Coast who stayed up till 2 a.m. to watch this, those of you in Europe who stayed up till 11 a.m. to watch this, or woke up, you know, I guess, if you're like a farmer.
You've got all the times memorized. I'm just thinking to myself about it. I just didn't even know. Well, we've got a ZVZ, so you're about to wake up, because ZVZ is one of those matchups where the game starts and it could end in a second. Very tense.
It could. It could end in a second. And we are actually going to check out our players that we have playing in this Zerg versus Zerg matchup. First off, we have MVP viOlet, an up-and-coming player. Went straight up to the top 8 in Code A. Got taken out by MVP, no shame in that. And then advanced straight into Code S immediately in his first match in the up-and-down matches, playing very well. And it's going to be in Code S in July. Has 2 wins and 0 losses versus Zerg in recent history. And actually, that was just up-and-down matches. He took out Kirix 2-0. Easy peasy in the up-and-down matches, and that was after taking out Yu-Gi-Oh! 2-0 in Code A. So this guy is undefeated in public Zerg versus Zerg.
That's exactly
4-0 right here. Not a lot of experience, but he is looking strong right now.
He really is. I mean, when you have a win rate like that versus Zerg, it's pretty telling, because Zerg versus Zerg is one of those matchups where anything can happen. There's a lot of different things that can go wrong. We have, next up, OGS TheWind, who actually is 19th in his GSL ranking. Back in January, he was in Code S round of 32, and March did a little bit better, made it to the round of 16, and then last season, of course, make it just to the round of 32, but he is in Code A, got knocked down in the up-and-down matches. His win rate against Zerg is only 25%, and that makes him definitely the favorite to lose against someone who's got a perfect win rate right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you can actually look at Kirix as being the benchmark for both these guys, because viOlet beat Kirix to advance, and then Kirix went down and beat TheWind to advance. So they both, you know, if you kind of use Kirix as a benchmark, MVP was better than him, and TheWind was not as good as him. Although that was a little bit close series, sort of a cheesy, weird series of ZVZ. So it may not be completely indicative, but again, viOlet clearly the favorite here.
Yeah, and the other thing about viOlet is he's a former Warcraft 3 player. So he's got a lot of micro under his belt. He's definitely one of those guys who can micro all his Zerglings back.
He's actually not a former Warcraft 3 player.
He's not?
He is a current Warcraft 3 player. He actually plays in Warcraft 3 tournaments still.
I actually did not know
How
that.
hardcore is that?
So that's really hardcore.
He's like pro at two different pro games at the same time. Actually, I don't know if he's... I think he's still pro. He was a pro in War 3. I think he still competes at a high level at least.
He does at least... I mean... I'm sure if you played him tomorrow, he'd kick your butt. He's probably still pretty good at Warcraft 3.
Yes. I think if I played him tomorrow, he would own me pretty badly.
Yeah.
Even the day after that, or like next week, I think he would still owe me. That's how good this guy is. He can beat me for days.
He can. Now the thing, he can also beat Kirix. And Kirix actually did an all-in against him, and he microed incredibly well. I don't know if you guys watched that series, but it was incredible. He microed his drones and his Zerglings like I've never seen before. Like, it looked like he was so dead. He had no chance of holding, and he held it just barely. Yeah. So that's the kind of guy that we're going to see today against TheWind. So we'll see how TheWind, an older player whose mechanics and micro, some people would say, are not as good because he's getting a little bit older. We'll see how he fares against a player who's awesome at it.
He is the OGS coach, OGS TheWind, and the thing he has going for him is he's really smart. He knows what needs to be done, but he was one of those players that knows what needs to be done but can't quite execute it every time, and that was why he failed against Kyrix. He had the right idea, he just couldn't quite, land those banelings. He couldn't quite snipe the enemy banelings with single lings to save his own. He lost a few too many zerglings, that kind of thing. So I think if it comes to like a larger game, like a longer macro game where it's mass roaches with infestors, I think that's going to benefit the Wind a little bit more just because then it'll be more tactical. But if it's a smaller micro game, I think viOlet's going to come out on top.
I would agree 100%. He's got that really good game since he knows when to attack, when to make roaches, that kind of thing. But when it comes to actually executing the attacks, he does get a little bit sloppy sometimes. We're going to jump into this game here in just a second, Moltrap.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens here. I'm really not sure who to root for. viOlet, kind of one of my one of my Code A kids. Casted his first season.
Code A kids.
And kind of hoping he does well. But again, the Wind, I feel so bad for him.
I do too.
He's so smart.
Did you see that documentary?
He has so much. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes me feel really sad for him. You see him, hanging out with his friends and stuff, and he's like, I really still want to be in Code S. He's got the Wind tier for you.
Yeah. A lot of legends are going to be in Code A next season.
I know. It's a very changing, dynamic scene right now.
The Wind, Rainbow, Boxer, some of the oldest of old school players fighting to retain careers here in StarCraft 2. But again, even though we say his mechanics are a little bit low, he's still a very capable player. He actually got to the round of 8, I believe, of the previous season of Code S. So he is a strong player when he puts his mind to it.
He does. He's got some really, really good results under his belt, that's for sure. So he's no pushover by any means. But against viOlet, I'm not sure how he's going to fare.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's going to depend on the builds that we see from these guys.
Yeah, hopefully the Wind has been practicing a lot too. He hadn't really played many matches versus Zerg in the last few seasons up until Kyrix, basically. He hadn't played very much versus Zerg, so kind of might have been a rusty matchup for him. But he's had a week to prepare. At least, a couple weeks, I guess, whenever they reach the bracket. He's had a while to prepare, so he's probably been practicing his versus Zerg. And
the thing about the Wind, as far as his practice regiment goes, is he knows how to practice because he's a coach. And he knows exactly what to practice, so that's the easy part for him. The hard part is actually just doing it over and over and over again because he doesn't have a lot of time. He's a coach. He's really busy. His mechanics are the part that's a little bit weaker because he doesn't have enough time to crank out those ladder games like everyone else does. So that's going to be the thing he really wants to practice his execution, his micro.
And remember, OGS has Xenio, who's a pretty good Zerg versus Zerg player on it. So the Wind has a little bit better of a practice partner, I think. Now, of course, players sometimes do go outside of their team to find, to find practice partners. So viOlet may have looked up Nestea and asked her for some tips, for all we know. But,
that's true. That's definitely possible.
Anyway, but yeah, again, viOlet clearly a favorite here, but we've already seen one upset today. We almost saw an upset or two yesterday, so you can never really call StarCraft games before the GG gets thrown down there.
That's exactly right, especially in ZVZ because anything could happen.
Yeah, ZVZ. If you land like one lucky Baneling on a group of Lings, that can win the game for you. And viOlet, he's a very, very strong player, but he's not like at the perfect level where he won't make those mistakes. It's not likely. He's very good, but it could happen that he might just accidentally let something go at the wrong time or accidentally move his queen off the ramp at the wrong moment, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Those type of things can happen, and you've got to be on tip-top shape of everything that you're doing. You've got to keep your drones up because if you have 3 less drones than your opponent and you're not pressuring during that moment, you're going to fall behind.
Yep. Now, the first map is going to be Metalopolis. Relatively small map, which actually might even favor that early Baneling, Speedling play.
Yeah, it all depends on the positions. Of course, close spawns have been disabled due to some community community feedback, shall we say, about those maps.
Yeah, well, it was just the close positions by land were just very, very close. It was
it made for some bad
really
games.
Difficult to spot and fend off rushes that happen on there. So, hey, there we go. Some fans from... Oh, man, I forgot where they're from.
I don't know where they're from.
Oh, and behind there, that was Monica in the background, by the way. She was too embarrassed to hold up a sign, so I told her that I'd tell her boyfriend, Will, that she's here and not him, haha. Because that's why she's here. Her parents are here, and they have no idea what's going on.
That's pretty funny. Well, shout-outs to Will.
Yeah, shout-outs to Will.
Monica's here for you.
I had, some of my family have like watched me on the GSL the last season, and like so I've gotten some feedback. My mom told me that my uncle like emailed her back. He said like he emailed my cousins and said, "Oh, you've got to check out Noah on this Warcraft Code A game show. It's so cool." And I was like,
yeah, sometimes the parents don't always understand, but it's always good that they're supportive.
that's true. But again, though, this is a really good place to get new people into StarCraft as well. GOM TV, even though it's in Korea, based out of Korea, originally kind of a Korean tournament, really wants to reach out to our foreign fans who may not have as much of a grasp about what esports is. And that's why we're here.
Exactly.
To explain things that are going on. So
tell your friends.
definitely.
I mean, even if your friends don't play StarCraft or aren't really that big into gaming, it's a huge scene out here. A lot of people watch StarCraft, especially in Korea, that don't even play it and never have and never will.
We actually get people in here in the studio that come to watch live games that like have never played StarCraft.
So don't be afraid to tell your friends. Don't be embarrassed. You like it. If you like something, you shouldn't be embarrassed to tell your friends about it. That's how I feel about it.
That's right. Anyway, we're going to get started here pretty soon.
Yeah, just waiting for those Korean commentators to wrap it up.
That's right. But yeah, make sure you tell your friends about us. If you want, by the way, just go ahead and plug Twitters and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
GOM TV is GOM TV's Twitter. You can follow GOM TV there. They actually put out, they're really good about putting out like announcements for like, say, when new casters are going to be starting or stuff like that.
Sometimes
when they put out the tournament schedules, so you can follow GOM TV there. I am Moletrap. You can follow me at Moletrap, and you are, I believe, at FXO Wolf.
Yes, FXO Wolf. Yep. MVP.
Oh, MVP.
Sporting his jacket over there.
Most valuable player. There we go. But yeah, and that one of the other cool things about here at the GSL studio is that there are actually usually about half foreign fans.
Yeah, so you don't feel
alone. Which is a little unexpected. But yeah, there's actually usually about half. In fact, there have been some days when there have been like 3/4 of the fans here have actually been non-Koreans who have come to the studio here. So we get a lot of people that are here like on vacation for a week. So they stop by and watch some GSL games, or you know, they're here for a couple months studying or something like that, and they stop by for some GSL. Oftentimes,
if that's you,
people from the military,
you should come here.
Yeah,
we'll say hi to you, shake your hand.
Take the purple line, line 5, get off at Mukdong Station. Walking over here, I think there's a guide on the GomTV.net
there is actually.
website on how
I
to
actually
get
have
here.
seen it, but I'm really bad with subways. Actually, Moletrap pretty much just tells me everywhere to go, and I follow him around.
The subway system is relatively easy. You just gotta look at the signs and like figure out which way you're going. It's it could be easier, but you can figure it out.
It's pretty simple, especially if you use subways before. But I really haven't that much, so for me, it's a little bit different. Not hard by any means, though. So
if you have ever been on a subway or been to get a sandwich at Subway, you should be able to make it here.
Do you remember the first time we cast together a long time ago?
Yeah.
I made Subway jokes.
You made Subway jokes?
I did. So I thought that was kind of ironic that you made a Subway joke.
I didn't remember that.
Talking about stim. If you don't have stim, it's like having the Subway sandwich without any meat on it. You don't remember? It makes me sad. Moletrap. That was our first cast together.
I don't remember that specific joke from like 8 months ago or 6 months ago, whatever it was.
I remember. Well, I guess it was my joke.
I'm sorry.
I'm disappointed.
Sorry, I didn't remember that joke. Don't worry, there will be more jokes to be made. More jokes indeed. Yeah, Tasteless and Artosis usually go to Subway before their cast.
Oh, really?
So there's one around here.
Yeah, that's what Trevor told me.
I actually don't know where it is.
I don't know. I would have to try to get some Koreans to come with me so I could order my food appropriately because I'm a really picky eater, and then when I go to restaurants, I just kind of like I don't know what to tell them.
Tasteless don't have that much Korean, but they still manage to get extra pickles on their sandwiches. So maybe there's a way of indicating it.
I don't know. Sometimes maybe you might have that kind of face that says, I want extra pickles. I think I have the kind of face that says, I don't want any pickles because I don't want any pickles.
Well, you just, when they start to put pickles on, you just scowl?
Yeah. They point at the pickles, and I'm like, no. I just give them this look, no.
No. They do understand the shaking of the head. Now, one of the reasons why we're having a little bit of a delay is because we're having some issues setting up the computers of the players. So we're going to get underway before too long, don't worry. But in the meantime, we are having them set up. Everything needs to be just perfect. We need to have all of the things in order, all the settings complete before we're able to go. Do not want to have your settings off. I mean, when you're at this pro level, even
playing
having everything a little bit, anything a little bit off can really throw off your game.
Exactly.
So you want to make sure it's all set up properly. Even observing.
Yeah.
Wolf was over here before the game, making sure his mouse settings were perfect for his observing.
And actually, I'm still having a little bit of trouble, so I'm trying to sort that out. But yeah, it is really. I'm one of those people who has to have the right mouse sensitivity exactly. And when I got to the GOM house, I got on the ladder and I was like, the desk's a little bit too high. I'm adjusting my chair height, just making sure everything's perfect. Made monitor adjustments.
You like Flash, where you actually like measure with you literally take a ruler into the booth and like measure that your keyboard is exact distance from the end of the table.
I actually sometimes make sure that my mouse pad is perpendicular to the keyboard in such a way that my mouse is set in a specific spot. I don't use a ruler, but I've got a ruler in my mind for these sorts of things.
Do you use custom hotkeys too?
Yes, I do. I use Q for patrol. I use R for immortal. And I use the tilde key for backspace to like jump between my next eye to chrono boost all those probes out.
There you go. I just play standard.
Play standard?
Just play standard hotkeys.
What's your mouse
sensitivity? So I can sit down at anyone's computer and play.
Your mouse sensitivity 50%? Like right in the middle?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't checked my mouse sensitivity. Whatever the default was, I just played like that and got used to it probably. I might have turned it up a little bit. I'm not sure. When we came back from the GSL finals, actually, they changed the computer that we use for the observing, and they had set the mouse sensitivity down to like 20%, and they turned off mouse scrolling. And I didn't realize this until we actually got in the first game. I'm like, Doa, buy time while I get these settings figured out so I can properly look at things. I didn't actually say that.
Go like taking your mouse and go like this, then like this, just move just like across the screen. You have to keep doing this, like picking the mouse up physically.
I had to use the little middle mouse button trick. By the way, if you want to be a pro observer, you hold the middle mouse button down and you move the mouse and it drags it, so it's a nice smoother.
Yeah, you watch someone
flow.
do it. It's like watching them conduct a concert or something. You just see us do it.
Yeah. All right, so we are finally ready. We've got the computer set up. We're going to get started here pretty soon. We're going to check out the map and the match here in just a moment and preview that. And there are the players just getting themselves situated a little bit more here. And by the way, I bet TheWind is really, really itching for a win on this first map at the very least. This is the map that he barely lost on. Metalopolis is where he barely got eliminated by Kyrix in the up and down matches, so he wants some revenge on Metalopolis.
He did eliminate Crossfire, which I think is kind of interesting. Because for ZVZ, Crossfire kind of allows you to set the pace of the match if you know what you're doing. And I find that really strange, actually, because you always have those ramps that you can engage on, get the better concave at the top of the ramp, and TheWind is one of those players who uses that kind of stuff when he plays, so I'm a little bit surprised he eliminated that for the ZVZ.
Yeah, lots of ramps on that one. They should call it ramp fire.
They really should.
All right, we are about to get underway here. OGS TheWind versus MVP viOlet. Let's see what happens.
MVP viOlet versus OGS TheWind.
All right, here we have at the top of Metalopolis our red Zerg player, definitely the favorite here, getting into Codas last season. Can he advance in the Super Tournament? He is going by
MVP viOlet.
MVP viOlet. There's a shot of the man himself. And down here at the southern position, at the opposite end of the map, we have the coach for OGS.
OGS TheWind.
OGS TheWind trying to redeem himself after a disappointing showing in Codas last season.
Both players actually getting their gases right away, so they're going to be going for speedling expands, it seems like.
Interesting.
I actually expected one or both of them to go for a hatchery first on this map. It's relatively safe, pretty long rush distance.
It looks as if, let's see, pool going down at the south for TheWind, and as well for viOlet up north. And they're staying about pretty even. For a second I was like looking at the supply counts, it looked a little wonky, but they pretty much evened out here.
Yep. Just a little bit faster of a spawning pool for TheWind. But his second drone was a little bit late for that reason.
Yeah, now the Speedlings, even though they're cross positions, is still relatively small, but not as close as it could be. So Speedlings aren't going to be able to put on quite as much pressure as they would on a different positions or a different map.
Yeah. The only thing you can really do with speedlings on a map like this at these positions is to kind of try to hide a ton of them and then just overwhelm with them. That's one sneaky thing you can do.
Very, very Brood War strategy.
And actually, viOlet is still mining gas. Hasn't pulled his drones off of his gas, so he's going to get speed, but looks like he wants to throw down a Baneling Nest here pretty soon.
Interesting.
And actually, TheWind doing the same. Neither pulling their drones out of their gas, so looks like they just want to go straight into Banelings, not get that hatchery right away.
Wow.
Not unusual for ZVZ.
So it does look as if it's going to be a more micro-oriented fight. In this situation, TheWind will blow you away.
He will.
He will.
TheWind
might not blow away viOlet though.
He's actually preemptively making a Spinecrawler here at his ramp.
Interesting.
Now, if you actually look at the, we see a shot of violet space, there's actually not a really good place for him to put a Spinecrawler.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of map imbalance actually that I'm noticing right now.
Yeah, it's funny how some of the maps actually do have these tiny little differences that do, like that Spinecrawler covers the ramp, whereas viOlet, if you put up a Spinecrawler, would not cover the ramp, and he's actually opting to get a Roach Warren instead. So he did not go for the Baneling Nest after all, and I think he was, oh, look at this, trying to track down that Overlord. Run, Overlord! Might get away.
Uh-oh, the Zerglings, though.
Zerglings trying to go by. The Queen just ignores it.
They're going to go up there. They're going to see that Roach Warren. That's huge to see. They'll see that Roach Warren. And speed finishes.
Speed finishes a moment earlier for the win, which gives him an opportunity to pick off a drone, scout everything, and then exit the base forthwith. Queen goes home with a notch on her belt, I believe. Yep. Did the Overlord die?
Actually, it did. It did die.
Okay, good. And
so, TheWind is going to have to go ahead and make 2 Spinecrawlers at the top of his ramp. He's actually going for a really fast lair. So that's sometimes indicative of super fast mutas. If you go against this one-base roach style, you make a bunch of Spinecrawlers at the top of your ramp, defend with Queens so Speedlings can't get by. Can go mutas, but it is pretty far distance, so mutas aren't going to be as good. And if they're scouted at all, of course, it's very easy to defend them.
Yeah. Yeah, very easy to defend. That's the thing about mutas in ZVZ is it's like, it's easy to defend if you see it coming, but if you don't, they can be devastating.
Exactly. It's all about the surprise.
All you need is a handful of mutas, and you can pick off the Queen and pretty much just start taking out drones left and right. Infestation Pit, though, going up for the Wind. Immediately after his lair finishes, he does not go for the Spire. He's going to go for fast Infestors.
Yeah, and actually we've seen Zenio do this before in the past sometimes, so I think maybe he talked with Zenio beforehand, practicing that ZVZ, because they're on the same team, and I think going for that Infestation Pit is something he's got planned for this map.
Yeah, this is exactly what Zenio actually did against Idra in NASL.
Yep.
So, oh no, the Zergling's going to get in and scout it. He's going for the drone. He gets past the Spinecrawlers and scouts the pit right before it pops out there. So that is actually huge. He's going to know exactly what's coming. Overlord would have scouted anyway. Actually, what is he doing? Did he see? Oh, maybe he's checking to see if he canceled it because he scouted it.
Now, the best thing to do in this scenario for viOlet is to actually just make a few Spinecrawlers. You know, he's going to have to judge whether or not the Infestors are going to be for a timing attack or if they're just going to be sort of a defensive measure. If they're a defensive measure, you can take another base even possibly. I know it's ZVZ. Take another base, not very common, but he could try to pull it off.
Yeah. Now, they are about even in Harvesters right now, but Zergling's getting in. Zergling's getting deflected. Anyway, viOlet actually has the extra base up, so TheWind doesn't look like he wants... Whoop, never mind. Hold that thought. He is expanding. Take it all back.
Take it all back.
Take it all back. Sorry, my minimap is kind of cut off on this screen. But he's getting an Evolution Chamber as well. So yeah, it looks like TheWind is kind of taking that Zenio strategy, bulking up his upgrades and his abilities for the late game. If he gets out, he just got the glands. If he makes Infestors now, they'll start with a lot of energy and be able to have a lot of fungals later on in the game.
Exactly. Now, what's kind of interesting about this strategy is that it allows you to have very safe, natural, but doesn't really allow you to pressure very easily against your opponent. Infestors and Roach is not that mobile. You kind of have to be very careful with how you engage. So it does open up a lot of opportunities for viOlet to either just continue to tech very safely. He is getting +1 missile attacks right now, as is TheWind. His is a little bit earlier. He's actually getting Roach speed early as well.
It's kind of interesting. I don't think...
He actually just started his Roach Warren.
Just started his Roach Warren. Yeah, he actually got +1 missile attacks way before he even had a Roach Warren. So he's definitely just kind of getting the upgrades done. And he's not going to have speed. But, more Zerglings getting in to scout, and they scout the Roach Warren. And just double check to make sure that Infestation Pit is still there. take out a drone, not a bad haul. But he spots the infestor starting to pop out. So, yeah, both players, and he decided he knew, viOlet knew that he was just kind of bulking that stuff up, so he's just been droning like crazy and getting his upgrades as well. He also has an infestation pit about to come up, but again, his infestors are going to be later. They're not going to be as energetic.
And the drone count right now is 51 drones. Some Zerglings coming here, so both players actually able to know everything that's going on. He actually sees a ton of drones in here. In fact, it's 57 drones to 44, so viOlet actually taking a significant drone lead, which is exactly what you want to do when you scout that infestation pit. You can't really pressure, you just have to get a ton of drones up, get those upgrades going, and then sort of try to catch up that way. The Wind actually going to go ahead and take a third base right now.
Interesting.
So this is actually the most passive ZVZ I think I may have ever seen in my entire casting career.
He doesn't, it's weird, he doesn't actually have the drones right now to support that third base. Now that he has infestors out, he might start droning up. But he hasn't been yet, and viOlet's going to take a third base as well. Hid
that drone in the extractor so it didn't die to the Zergling, killing it before it can make the hatchery.
Very cute little move there. And upgrades a little bit ahead for viOlet. So he's going to have, he might have another timing where he actually has +2 attack. And the pathogen glands for his infestors are going to be done soon. In fact, they just finished, and he just produces 4 infestors as well. So we might see viOlet go for a little bit of an attack here with infestors and roaches as that upgrade finishes.
Infestors actually hitting some of these speedlings with fungal growths.
That's actually not good. That's energy he wants to fungal roaches. He instead has to fungal Zerglings. And that was a little bit bad, so he lost a fungal there.
A little bit funky that he used that on those Zerglings. I was a little bit surprised. Didn't really need to, but he just wanted to make sure that nothing got scouted. The Hydralisk Den, though, I'm going to check and see if viOlet did see that, because that's pretty huge. He did see that Hydralisk Den.
He did see the Hydra Den. That's why he used it. He was really desperate to make sure he didn't see it, but he did. So that means that the Wind theoretically might have a really awesome composition if he can get some Hydras out as well. He's already got those infestors. He doesn't have to make any more right now. They've got plenty of energy, so he just has to make roaches and hydras right now, and
with a fast third base up for the Wind.
More infestors.
Yeah, he's just going to get some more infestors. I think he wants to get a really good composition. He wants to have those hydras in the back to support those roaches. But there is a little bit of an attack coming out for viOlet. He's getting ready. He's posturing to be aggressive. Continuing to use speedlings to scout.
Interesting.
One of his roaches getting a little bit out of position here.
That random roach there. Anyway, yeah, viOlet just attacking with one roach.
So silly.
If that roach takes out, okay, never mind. But here comes the rest, and a fungal goes down. He takes one infestor out. He needs to fungal those infestors. He does get a fungal on the enemy infestors. He's probably back up now, but he does lose his own. Tons of infested Terrans going down, and they are going to actually not do much good. But more roaches coming in the side, attempting to snipe the infestors, and they're going to run into the main of OGS TheWind and start taking out drones. And in the meantime, the Wind is just kind of stuck outside of his base, had headed the wrong direction, runs his drones a little bit too late, loses a lot of them.
This is actually kind of a funky attack by viOlet, but he did kill a ton of drones, and he's actually just going to try to save some of those roaches. It looks like he's going to get a few of those out, maybe targets the drones on the way out. Very, very aggressive move, but I like it. It's decisive, and actually, we have I know it's not shown on the map, there's a little bit of a counterattack by the Wind that completely was thwarted.
Yeah. So I wonder if he just made the Hydra Den in case of mutas or something like that, since he didn't know what was going on. Because he's not making any Hydras. He's spending all of his gas on infestors and just going infestor roach. And now 36 speedlings in production.
I think he wants to be very aggressive and mobile with these speedlings.
Yeah.
Now he lost all those infestors that he invested a lot into, because that was like one of the funkiest battles I've ever seen with infestors fungling infestors. Not a lot of roaches for either player. So we'll see. The Wind actually looks like he is, well, first of all, deny these speedlings.
Yeah,
there aren't that many drones there to kill.
Yeah, infestors actually are pretty good at killing infestors. Actually.
They are. And actually, here come a bunch of speedlings.
Sniping a queen, sniping some drones. They're going to have to run away from those roaches, though.
Has to get out of there.
They do get out of there. They're so fast. And
the Wind is actually 30 supply down right now. He's got, the worker count is dead even, 48 for both players. Wow. He's actually, the only problem with the Wind is that he doesn't really have any Hydras out, whereas viOlet has a ton of Hydras out, and those speedlings are just not going to do very well against his compositions. Infestors, roaches, and Hydras, as you see a huge army moving out, and I'm not sure if he can hold this next push.
And he's just using it to harass this third base. And it looks like he might be able to take out these roaches. Is viOlet going to fall back, though? No, he is not choosing to fall back to protect this. He's just going to fight it with reinforcements. And TheWind, like you said, is lacking a lot of supply because of those lings that are hydras for viOlet. So he's in a little bit of bad shape. Gets a nice couple fungals off on the front there. Fungals on everything. Green goo on top of all the units. Infested Terrans going down from viOlet. Both players throwing out tons of Infested Terrans. We're going to see an Infested Terran fight. But the Hydralisks are probably going to win the day. So much damage per second going out there. And TheWind has no army left.
It's just falling apart here. There's so many Infested Terrans. Even though they're slow, they do so much damage.
Oh, and
I don't think, I don't think TheWind is going to hold this hatchery at the very least. These Infested Terrans are about to all die, but with more roaches coming in, it looks like TheWind might be out of luck.
Yeah, there's just too much there. Those Infested Terrans doing tons of damage at that point. And really, oh man, just an absolute slaughter. TheWind is pretty much out of this game. He's desperately trying to rally some kind of defense for his main, but it really did come down to, like you said, the fact that he had all those Hydras instead of Speedlings, and the Speedlings did virtually nothing.
GG.
And GG coming from TheWind. viOlet takes game 1 and retains his perfect record in televised Zerg vs. Zerg.
He's not lost a single game yet. You know, the thing about all of that, and we talked about the Speedlings a little bit versus the Hydras, he had those Speedlings because he lost all the Infestors. He made an extra round of Infestors that took up all of his gas, couldn't really make any Hydras, and he lost all those Infestors, so he just kind of felt like, I've got to make something, I've got to do something, and those Speedlings just didn't really work out for him, didn't do a lot of damage, couldn't hold off that attack.
It was an okay idea, I would say, to make Speedlings and harass and try and keep viOlet in his base by threatening to run him with Speedlings and kills drones, but viOlet was just like, you know what, I got enough of a lead, I don't really care.
Exactly.
I don't really care. I'm going to lose the drones at my third. I'll just send some roaches over there and keep them occupied while I go kill you.
Yeah, actually, I think he sacked an Overlord. I noticed an Overlord was dying when a bunch of different things were going on. I think he saw, oh, you really just don't have that many Hydras or any at all, and I'm just going to run you over. So he went for it. And it worked out.
Worked out pretty well for MVP viOlet. On his way, 1 win away from going to the round of 32 in the Super Tournament. And the next map is going to be
Xel'Naga Caverns.
Xel'Naga Caverns. Xel'Naga Caverns. Another interesting
very
map.
wide open natural for Xel'Naga Caverns. Makes it very difficult to expand. The hatchery first builds are, you see them sometimes on this map in ZVZ, but it's very, very risky to go for that because there's a very, very wide open concave for roaches to attack. Speedlings have a lot of room to run around in and try to snipe your hatchery, so you have to be very, very careful.
You can run Speedlings through the hallways.
Yeah,
whether they be secret or not, you can run Speedlings through them and try and harass bases. You can run roaches back there too, theoretically. So this might even be a little bit better map for those backstabbing tactics that TheWind tried to use there with those lings at the end. There's our players. TheWind.
TheWind, if you look at his face right now, he looks a little bit stressed.
He has so much experience though that, you know, he's one of those players that probably can't be really shaken.
He's not shaken, I think.
He was like a Brood War pro back in like 02. Like he was one of the top players back in 02. So he is definitely old school. So anyway, but you never know. You never know. I was actually talking to one of the Korean commentators, actually another old school Zerg player for Brood War, Oversky. He said that after 150 matches on screen, he still gets nervous sometimes. We'll find out what happens in game 2.